sabe. Suena el bongo, hazme un tumbao, que el ritmo lo pongo yo.
Pops and the Rican.
Look at this dude. Look at the top of his head. Look at his lips.
Pops and
Hey everybody! Look, it's the Pops and the Rican show, and I'm still Pops,
And I'm the Rican.
and that makes this the Pops and the
Put it
Rican
together.
show.
Yeah.
It's I know you're impressed that I actually remembered all of that because I didn't have cue cards
Right.
or anything.
Right.
But so today, if you didn't notice, we've got guests
Yes.
in the club here at Gutty's Comedy Club, and this weekend we've been having a great time. Last night had a great show, and these two guys rolled in and just blew the top off of the place. And then when the cops left, they said we could have a show tonight, so they stuck around, and that's a good thing. But so guys, welcome to first of all, welcome to Gutty's Comedy Club, and then welcome to the Pops and the Rican show.
Thanks for having us, man. It's a beautiful room, and had a lot of fun last night, so it's good to be here.
Nice.
So for those of you who don't know who these guys are, mostly because you don't watch Cops. We have our guests in for the weekend. Tim Steele.
Yep.
The very famous Tim Steele. You remember his TV show Steele in the Night? I don't know.
Steele in the night.
It's a great show.
It was only paid for view.
Well, yeah, but I thought it was a great show, and then Andy Beningo,
Yes.
all the way from Australia.
That's right. That's right.
That was because of the joke.
I'm just making this stuff up as I go along,
It's one of
people.
my favorites.
So let me ask you, and you guys decide how you want to do. Who goes first? If you want to do rock paper scissors, you want to poke them in the eyes. I don't care. Arm wrestle. Karate chop to the throat. However you guys want to decide you're going to do this. First of all, how long you guys been doing comedy, and kind of how'd you get started? How'd you get sucked into this world of stand-up?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I started pretty much doing open mics in college. That's kind of how I started off as kind of a bucket list thing. I always wanted to try it, and as you know, once you do it once, you get hooked on it.
Yeah.
So my first show, I've said this in other interviews before, but it was an open mic. So anybody could do anything. So there was a rapper, a poet. There was a guy who went on and did a poem about death. And then the MC jogged up and was like, "Are you guys ready to laugh now?" And I was like, "Oh, please don't be me." And of course it was me. So I had
Who's ready to laugh?
Yeah.
Tell us some jokes, some death jokes. We're going to all death tonight.
It was a brutal setup, but the show actually surprisingly went fairly well.
Yeah.
Nice.
And then a couple of blunders along the way, but luckily just started working in some comedy clubs that were kind of local. And then we were talking about Chili Chalice. Took his writing class and got to know him very well and started going on the road with him a little bit. And then that just kind of, before you know it, it kind of snowballs, and then you're at Gutty's. So it's worked out pretty good.
Career's just taking off real fast.
up, man? That's
All the
what's
way
up.
to Gutty's.
That's cool. That's cool.
No.
That's cool.
How about you, Tim?
Well, grew up watching on AMC, watching comedy and cable when I was a kid, and always wanted to give it a try. And so I talked 8 other pastors about 8 years ago. Talked these pastors into taking a comedy class, and I got pastors because comedy can be blue at times, and so if they told me at the Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle in Detroit, one of the oldest comedy clubs in the country, they said if I had at least 8, it'd be our own class. So on graduation, it'd be a clean show. So I talked 8 other guys into doing it, and enjoyed it. It was a Homer crowd. We loved it, and I was one of the guys that said, I'd like to do this more often. And so been doing it ever since.
That's
And
cool.
How long ago was that?
About 8 years ago.
About 8 years?
Yeah.
Okay. And so you kind of talked about you watching comedy, thinking, "Hey, this would be kind of cool." Andy, you kind of hit it in college. Who were some of your comedy giants? The guys
look
that
up to, yeah,
they
who you
they
go
kind
to?
of inspired you a little bit when it
Yeah.
comes to the funny side of things.
Yeah, my favorite guy is Jerry Seinfeld. I just think I love his just observations. I love his writing. I think everything. There's no word that's wasted in his act. Everything is perfection. But love Leno, Jim Gaffigan. Those were kind of the guys that I kind of looked up to.
Okay.
So yeah.
So,
Man,
Dennis Tooley. Say Dennis Tooley. He's hilarious. He's hilarious. Say Dennis Tooley.
I'm talking about 80s and 90s guys that I
Still
watched.
say Dennis Tooley.
Yeah.
He's old. He's
Dennis
really
Tooley,
old.
Dennis Tooley. But I liked a lot of the old stuff. I mean, I still like guys. Now again, most of the audience might not know who these guys are, but I like guys like Red Skelton.
right.
That could just be so professional, so clean, and still would be hilarious.
See, okay, well, I'm gonna jump on this too because
Okay.
this has been a hot topic as far as on our Facebook page. A lot of people are asking us, especially when we opened up this topic of clean comedy. Okay, and there has been just a back and forth on everybody's thoughts on whether clean comedy is actually comedy because there's been comments that said like, is this even a club? Is this a real club? I'll wait for a real club to come out because we're doing clean. So my question is, your thoughts on the how important it is or how much clean comedy is just as valuable as blue comedy. You know what I mean? Because of the difference between opportunity versus are you getting more opportunity as a clean comic versus if you were doing blue? Or is there even any kind of, difference between the two?
I personally don't think so.
Okay.
That's just me. I think the main goal is you still have to be funny.
Right.
Whether you do it in a dirty way or
Or
a
a
clean
clean.
way,
Right.
that's totally up to you. People
Okay.
always ask me like, "Oh, why? So you work clean? Is that like
Right.
like purposely?" Just no. That's just how my brain works.
Right.
It's harder for me to write something dirty than it is to write something clean. Just
Okay.
cleaner stuff comes naturally.
Okay.
When I was starting off and doing comedy clubs and stuff, when I was younger, I would try to write dirty things because that's what I thought you had to do to survive in clubs.
Right.
But then when I would do something dirty, it would be the opposite reaction. The
Right.
crowd would go, they'd laugh, and then they'd go, why is that little teddy bear saying,
Right.
and I would be like, no, but it's funny because it's dirty, right?
Okay.
And so it goes against kind of, I don't want to say like a persona or anything.
Right.
But I think the goal should be just be funny. So, that's what I think. So you just got to be naturally you.
Right.
In terms of, is it real comedy or not? I mean, the guys that I look up to that are working today, Ryan Hamilton, Keith Alberstadt, whoever else, I would put those guys up against anybody.
Right.
And the goal is to be so funny that you're not consciously thinking, oh, this is clean. Oh,
Right.
he did I appreciate when people go, I enjoyed your act. I love that it was clean.
Yeah.
But I also enjoy that people just go, hey, you were really funny.
Hilarious.
Right.
Like, I think if you're purposely trying to be clean or purposely trying to be dirty, I think that's when it loses its,
Right.
you know what I mean? I think
Right.
if you're naturally you, I think that's
Right.
the goal for everybody, personally. But
Right.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned Red Skelton because a lot of people equate Red as a clean comedian because they knew him when he was on TV.
right.
A lot of people don't know, and I had the privilege of interviewing him before he passed, that he started in vaudeville, and he was as raunchy and rank as a guy could get.
Sure.
And if you asked him for advice as a comedian, he said it all the time. Always work clean, because then you can work anywhere.
Yeah.
Because when TV came to him as an opportunity, he had to reinvent a lot of his comedy. He didn't have to reinvent his persona, but he had to redo most of his stuff because he was so filthy beforehand. And when he went to TV, he had to be clean. So he was like, no, if I would have started out clean and I could have just rolled into it, it would have been a whole lot easier. And it would have been more natural progression for him.
Right.
Sure.
And so,
Yeah.
but I think it
I
is
like-
key.
yeah.
I think it is key to be you
Yeah.
and be true to who you are, what it is that what's your point of view,
Yeah.
and why is that going to be funny,
Right.
and be funny. I mean, that's ultimately the job
Right.
is be funny.
Right.
I don't think Gaffigan's sitting there going, "Oh, this is this is my joke. How do I make it clean or whatever?"
No,
I think
he
he
just-
just writes.
he
Well,
just
this
writes
is
what-
He just
Funny, this is
naturally
what's
writes
funny.
from his
Okay.
voice. Yeah.
I don't
Same
think
thing
he's,
with Jeff Foxworthy.
Yeah.
I think that you can be sober and enjoy clean comedy.
Yeah.
I think you just come and you laugh.
Just have a good time.
Right? What's
That's
that?
what I'm saying. Just have a good time.
Just
Like,
have a good
go
time.
and yeah, and that's what like. I like your comment because it's like we're just providing just another place for comedy. We just want you guys to come through and have a good time. And if we're doing clean, we're doing clean. It doesn't matter as long as it's funny. We want to give another pretty much another avenue, another option. Our demographic is family friendly, but it doesn't mean that we're less.
Here's an observation
Yeah.
that I've heard and observed myself is that sometimes you'll watch a dirty comic and you'll just come home and go, that was fun. He was funny. And it's the event, it's, it's whatever. But then you say to a person, like if somebody tells me they went and saw a dirty comic and they said he was really funny, I said, tell me a bit. Tell me something that you
right.
remember.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they're laughing. Andy and I have talked about this before. They're laughing at the buzzwords or whatever.
Yeah.
But when you go and see a clean comic, like Jeff Foxworthy or somebody like that who's working today, you say, oh, he did this bit on this, and I thought it was so funny. You're actually remembering the bits because you're not getting caught up in buzzwords or it's just
Right,
funny.
it's real subjective, but still at the same time, it's just interesting to see how the comments that are being made are really just from comedians that just don't want to work or put the work in to learn how different things. You know what I mean? Or if they don't have to.
But they don't have to. I
right.
mean, if that's not who they are,
Right.
It's interesting. It's like I know a lot of dirty comedians, and they don't want to do cruise ships or corporate shows or whatever.
Yeah.
That's totally fine. That's
Exactly.
not their market anyway. So
Exactly.
I
just,
prefer that they didn't do corporate because
Then you take away your money.
Stay out of my pocket.
Chances.
Seinfeld
Get
said
back
that
in the
one.
ship.
I heard Seinfeld say that. Where he goes, I hope less people work
Right.
cleaner because it's the same thing. There's a smaller amount, but
Yeah.
I think naturally, again, you just got to be you. So it's like if they have no interest
Yep.
in that, that's fine. But
Right.
but I also don't get if you don't like it, you don't have to spend all this time and energy complaining about it. I
That's
don't
what I'm
I don't
saying.
particularly like really vulgar comedians, but I go, hey, if that's what they do. Let them
Have
do what
at
they
it.
do. I'm not going to
Exactly.
sit there and try to fight about it.
Exactly.
I just go, hey, you do that,
Do you.
I do
Right.
that.
Right.
And
It's not even the same.
Like Andy said, he's just being who he is.
Yeah.
I book a lot of churches, and comics. It's a small world in comedy, and guys who have been around a while. Somebody will hear that you're booking churches, and they're just dirty comics. They're blue.
Yeah.
And they'll come up to me and go, "Hey, I can work clean. I don't want to hire you unless it's you. I don't want you to
Right.
revamp your entire act.
Right.
So you're
Yeah.
not blue, and all of a sudden it's not you. It doesn't come sincere. It's not natural. I
I
love
want
it.
real guys.
I love it when a comic comes up to me and says, "Oh yeah, all my shit's clean."
Right. You're like, wait a minute.
Really? All of it. Do you, maybe let's have a conversation sometime about it. I mean, so it's kind of fun.
What's tough though too is it's such a broad topic
it
of
is.
if you say clean, because I
Right.
remember I was even thinking that too last night. I go, do they want it church clean where you
Right.
don't say
Right.
anything,
Right.
or do you? So there's like this kind of gray area on
Yeah.
what is considered clean. Anyway,
Well, here's
that's what I think is so hard to define it. Is well, what exactly is it? But,
Here's what I say.
We still got to be funny. So
This
it's just
is
funny.
one of the
Don't
things
worry
that
if it's
comes
clean or dirty.
One of the
Right.
things that comes up quite often is that people say, "Oh, it's clean comedy, so they must be doing Christian comedy."
Right. And it's
okay.
not.
It's
right.
not okay. We've had guys that come through
That do
are
work.
Christian comics. They build themselves as Christian comedians, and as long as they're funny,
Yeah.
They get on board.
then
Right.
okay,
great,
bring the funny,
Yep.
And so, but it's not like we're intentionally okay. We're gonna hold church now, so everybody quiet down and get
Right,
your
right.
hymnals out. 'cause
Yeah, that's not the.
so
yeah, that's not the.
what we look at and this is what I say to the comics on Sunday night. We run Laugh Sabbath. It's an open mic, and I always say to the comics beforehand, this is a family-friendly environment. So here's the rules: if you say something into your phone to Surrey, and Surrey won't type it out, don't say it on my stage.
Right, sure.
You know, and
funny.
if you're going to talk about body parts or activities that you cannot show on stage legally, don't be talking about it on my stage.
Sure.
And other than that, if you feel like you don't have to apologize or explain anything, and if you got kids in the front row, like last night we had kids there, don't say anything that you or the parent's going to have to explain to them later on what you meant by that.
Yeah.
Just keep it clean enough that
It's
they're
a
going to
challenge.
laugh and everybody's going to laugh, then we're good. You know, and so if you have a topic, like during our local levity show recently, one of the comics, you know, he had a bit that he did that made a reference, but it wasn't vulgar, and it was the way he said it. It was funny.
Yeah.
I mean, it was almost juvenile funny the way he said it. And so here's this grown man kind of with that, and so it was funny. And I'm like, okay, nobody had to go home and explain to their 12-year-old. Do you know what he meant when he said, if you're gonna wiener somebody, you know,
exactly.
he didn't have to explain it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
So that was funny. And so that's kind of where we look at it, is making sure that it's going to be good for everybody in the room. So if there's a 10-year-old in the front row, it's going to be funny.
Yeah.
Someplace, not the whole show, but there's going to be something the kid's going to laugh at and something everybody else is going to laugh at through the show. So at the end of the night, everybody goes home saying, I had a great time. It was a lot of laughs and less rolls.
Right.
One of the things that I would say though about that is I say things like, I do humor for adults, I don't do adult humor.
Right.
And I think the comedians who last and are the biggest are the ones that do material that the most people can identify with, like relationships, like having children. So for me, whenever people are booking me, I tell them, I don't want kids in the audience in the sense that I'm not going to say anything I'm ashamed of.
Right.
But they're just not going to get it. It's,
Right.
I'm talking about having children. I'm talking about marriage. I'm talking.
You're not really writing to kids anyway.
Yeah, I'm not
You're
writing to kids, right.
Right. And we're not like, we don't really emphasize, you know, bring your kids. We're just saying it's family friendly, meaning if you can't find a sitter or whatever, then sure, bring them.
Bring 'em in.
But I mean, we're not doing infants and toddlers and stuff like that. We're not trying to,
Yeah.
But at the same time, I get what you're saying.
Ultimately-
You don't really write to kids. You're
Right.
just writing
Yeah.
your comedy.
Right.
And so whether they get it or not, we're not, I don't necessarily look for the kids to be laughing. I'm just like, you're here because your parents brought you. But, you know, whether you laugh at my joke or not, I'm still going to be me. And so I get that because you don't necessarily really can relate with them kids.
Right.
You're just like, I know, unless you have your own. But at the same time, you know, you're not really writing necessarily to them.
Right.
But I
So
get that, yeah.
that brings up another topic when it comes to writing.
Right.
How do you write? Where do you find your material, and how do you go about writing your material?
Yeah.
What's your process for writing?
I mean, I'm lucky because I'm married and I have kids, so that's just a fountain of material every day. They'll say something or do something, but it's hard sometimes to get it from, you know, oh, well, my daughter did this and that's adorable. And people go, oh, you know,
Yeah,
we don't
okay.
care about your kids.
Right.
But the trick is just trying to find that universal, this is what every single kid does.
Right.
So that takes a little bit of tweaking from, well, this was adorable to, well, now, how do I get people
Everybody
to care about it?
That's good.
So it just takes a little while to it's going on stage a lot and just throwing it against the wall and
Yeah.
seeing what sticks, and then,
See, I think I had it easier than Andy.
yeah.
Because Andy started, you know, in college, and so for me, you know, I'm starting in, you know, 50 years old. I've got quite a few years of material that I can sit and go, okay, that was funny. How do I put that in an act? You know, one of the things that is said about 18, 19, 20-year-olds who are getting into comedy, all they know is sex and Taco Bell. And so when you go to an open mic at a regular
Yeah. They're just
comedy
they're
club
schooling
that's
out
blue,
there,
you know, they'll allow
Yeah.
blue stuff.
Yeah.
That's all you hear
Yeah.
because that's all they know.
Yeah.
And so I think it was easier for me to get started than Andy.
Well, but
That's
that's,
good,
what's fun is if you look back,
Yeah.
I mean, you write about what you know. So when I was starting off, it was all basically living home with my parents. I'm in college. I bought books. I did this, blah, blah, blah. And then, but it's like my act changes as I'm getting older. So it's like I'm have been doing stuff about newborns, and now that they're a little bit older, you know, you can kind of put that on the shelf and start working on this new stuff. So it's kind of fun to like that the act evolves, I guess. You know,
Yeah.
it changes.
Right,
You know,
right.
rather than just being like, here's a set, 45, I'm done.
Right. I
You know,
can take this to my grave. I got you.
Yeah, it's fun for me to just kind of. I mean, there's still stuff that I've done for a while.
I'm
but-
working
but,
on
you know,
Metamucil
you got a
stuff
new
now.
chunk that
Yeah.
comes in. Some of the older stuff falls out, so it, you know, it's a process. So.
Do you pretty much take like, let's say you got a really solid joke, you know you're gonna get some laughs with, right? That works.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you create a set? Do you a set list where you know open strong, and then throw in a couple new ones and sandwich it with another strong one, or what's like your process in creating new material in your set? Do you just take and just throw everything out there new, or do you sandwich that in and try to work it out?
Depends on the show, I think. Like
Okay.
if I'm going to an open mic, I'll just have my notebook out, and all right, here's 7 minutes of stuff I'm going to throw against the wall, and we're going to find out together
What
which
works.
one sticks.
Okay.
But if I'm doing a professional show on a Friday or Saturday night, you try to sneak a couple of them in. You know, you still go, all right, here's, you know, like last night I did a thing about my wife and I doing the garage sale. So you can start with 10 minutes of stuff where they go, we love this guy, he's great. And then
Yeah.
you can kind of go, hey, what do you guys think of that? And you know, it's going to
yeah.
dip a little bit,
Yeah.
but then you know after doing the show for whatever, 10, 12 years, well, I've got this chunk after it that I know if it does dip,
You can bring.
I
it
can
back.
bring you back up with that,
That's
you know, and so it's just, you know, you do that a couple times, just because one joke doesn't work or whatever, you still have to do it to figure out, okay, where does it fit in the set, how does it work,
Yeah.
all the little rhythms and kinks and everything,
Yeah.
so.
One of the things that I
cool.
teach in comedy college when I'm teaching comics, the important thing anytime you're trying to do some new stuff out,
Yeah,
the important thing is, do you trust that your instincts that this is funny?
right.
So you don't know if the audience is going to like it the way you have it set up, that in terms of the rhythm of the set punch.
Yeah.
You don't know how they're going to react to it, but do you trust enough in your own ability that in the essence there's funny here?
Yeah, there's something there.
So then go in with confidence that you trust it enough
Yeah.
that there's funny here. So I'm going to take it out and I'm going to throw it up against the wall
Right,
and
right.
see. And then I got to say,
Stay
okay,
right.
I got a little bit of laughs. Now I just need to tweak the editing process
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
so that I get to the funny as quick as possible and roll with it. But I think that there's a lot of times it's, do I trust my material enough that I'm gonna do it with confidence and I'm gonna own it solidly out there.
Totally, right.
I'm not gonna go with hesitation and
Right.
oh, well, I don't know if I should do this, but
Right.
you know, what do you think? Tell me what you
Right,
you know.
right.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
just be
Yeah,
bold.
you-
Be bold. Throw it out there. Own it.
Yeah.
And go. Well, okay. I got to make some notes here
Sure.
because that guy thought it was funny, and the rest of you guys think I suck.
Yeah,
okay.
right,
Thanks.
right.
Thanks
Sure,
for the
exactly.
vote of confidence, there,
Right,
people.
but
You know,
but it still gives you.
but
that
have some fun and go
option.
with it, you
Yeah,
know, so.
exactly.
Well, yeah, you still got to sell it.
Yeah,
you still
right,
got to
right.
go, and that's what's funny is you go, hey, it's this is it, but in the back of your mind you're on, I don't know
Yeah, it's
about
not
that.
gonna-
And then you go, all right, it worked
Those
or
garbage.
whatever. It's
Yeah.
but you still got to perform it and sell
Yeah.
it. And,
One of the things that I
Yeah.
think you have to learn though is, are you performing for comics or are you performing for the audience?
Right, right.
I used to be the worst amateur magician in Michigan. I was, you know, and so I would go to these magic seminars because I took my boys and got them in magic so they would learn to talk as they were doing. You know, I wanted them to learn to communicate.
Yeah.
So I would take my boys to these seminars and things like that. And I'm in a seminar with a guy, and the guy says to me, or you know, in the class, he says, "You got to decide: are you doing magic for people, or are you doing magic for other magicians?" He said, if you do magic for other magicians, you will spend hours learning how to shuffle and move a card in a deck
To get it
anywhere
right,
you
yeah.
want it to
Yeah.
be, but that is hours. Or come back to my booth and I'll sell you a fake deck, a trick deck,
Mm-hmm.
and in 3-4 practices, you can go do it to other people. And I sat there and I thought, I don't have hours to spend to be a magician.
Right.
So
I got
I went
you.
and got me a bunch of fake decks, and I just switch
Boom.
them out, you know. And people go, "Man, you're good." No, it's a deck. Anybody can do this, right?
Right.
And he tripled the offerings at church that Sunday. Wow, man. It was
So what happens is you go to these open mics, and a guy will get up and he'll say these things, and he'll come and sit down in the other comics. Well, hell, I thought that was funny, or you know,
And
and
then
it wasn't for the audience; it was for the other comics.
Yeah. So
You
that's
just
the
gotta
thing is
decide who
when
you're
you're going to open mics too, you're working rooms that sometimes it's just all comedians, and if you don't have any non-coms, you're not really going to know whether it has any life. At least a couple jokes, because you're basically speaking to the back of the room.
Yeah.
And so now it's like, okay, how do I go to a place, or can I get a place where we can at least work some jokes out, where I can get some life and see, okay, is this going to work or not? Because all the comedians would definitely have an opinion, based on what they think would be funny. Oh, you could have said it this way, or said it that way. But at the same time, okay, I want to know what is the actual crowd's reaction. Like someone who is not a comedian, do you really like this joke or not? And it's tough sometimes when you go to certain open mics. It's just all comedians, working it out. So I get what you're saying.
And it's tough even just when you're doing crowds, because every crowd's different.
Yeah,
You know
that's
what I
true.
mean? It's like sometimes people go, man, I really related to that. And you
Yeah.
go, that's a keeper. And then you go and you do it in a different room.
And they're like, what?
I don't think the audience is always right.
Yeah,
I mean, obviously there's a reason you're
That's a good
doing
point.
this act.
Yeah.
Is because this joke works, that works. But sometimes it might not work there, or they can't relate to it there. It's an older crowd, so they forgot about raising kids or whatever. Or it's a
Yeah.
younger crowd. We don't care about you. You're
Yeah.
old. We
Yeah.
don't want to hear about your dad jokes. But then,
yeah. Well, that's
so it's just
it's the thing I say quite often to other comics. Never blame the crowd,
right.
but when the crowd is just a really just off crowd because of whatever it might be,
Yep.
it's okay to be honest and say, you know what, that crowd, you could have gotten up and done
Anything.
all of Jerry Seinfeld's material, and they would have been.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, you could have been Jerry Seinfeld, and they'd have been whatever.
Yeah.
So there are times when you can lay it on the audience, but don't start laying it on the audience. But also don't be afraid to give them the honor of
Yeah.
sucking as a crowd. Hey,
Yeah.
not every audience sucks like you guys. You guys have done an exceptional job of sucking tonight.
But you can
We
still.
appreciate
your
that.
job as a comedian should still be to somehow get that crowd
Yeah,
to
you-
like
you
something.
gotta find
You
something.
can't just go,
Yeah.
"Oh, this crowd sucks. They're not for me, and I'm out of here."
Right.
Your job is to, all right, how do I adjust?
Okay,
How do I adjust to get these people to still like me and have a good time?
Yeah. So what you're saying is. Just because the crowd was really old and they weren't picking up any of the Puerto Rican references you were making,
Right.
you should have stayed and done your whole set.
you gonna throw that in there?
I feel
bro?
like I'm missing something here. I feel like something bad happened.
We did a show in Roscoe, Illinois, and it was in a cafeteria, just gray hairs, right?
Okay.
Oxygen tanks and everything. And so they throw me out there, bro, and I was like 22 at the time, 21,
I
22.
don't know, it's just-
Bro, every reference was at least, about Mortal Kombat and all this stuff, right?
Sure.
And so I go out there, I'm like, they're not gonna know anything.
Yeah.
I froze, bro, and I did like maybe 5 minutes. Look, I told him to go.
Steve goes out to do. He literally was going to go out. I don't know if you've ever met Mike McLean. He's also from. He's from up in
feel like
north
I
of
know.
Detroit. There,
Yeah.
he used to do a lot of comedy. Now he's doing ghost hunting. I think.
Right.
I'm not sure.
All right, there you
But he was on the show with us. Mike was going to do like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Steve was going to do
Just go,
15 to
just
20
15,
minutes.
20, yeah.
And then I was going to close the show out. Mike goes out, does his time. Has a pretty good solid set. Got the crowd rolling. They introduced Steve, and I'm sitting back there with Mike, and I'm like, okay, I got a little bit of time, and I look over, I'm like, Steve, what are you doing? He goes, yeah, you gotta go.
You gotta go right.
He says
I
he
was
did
still-
5 minutes. He didn't know.
But
He did 3. He was stretching.
bro.
He was stretching 3 for its life. I'm
I
telling
tried.
you.
I tried. I was still young
like-
in the game, new to the game, and I'm
Yeah.
coming off, the fact that we were just,
I
we were doing
remember
shows.
I was telling Tim that happens a lot when you're
Oh,
younger. Your
man.
first couple of feature
get scared.
sets. I remember they tell you like do 30, and I came off at 18 one time. The same thing, drunk, rowdy crowd.
Yeah.
Right.
I remember like apologizing. They're like, "You don't have to pay me. I'm so sorry." And he's
Yeah.
like, "I'll pay you, but just do your time next time."
Yeah,
And
right.
that's just a lesson. You just
Okay,
gotta,
So at what
stick
point in
at
your
it.
career were you able to say, this set is universal. Now I can go out and go to any crowd and be able to do good. Because now we're talking about how some crowds kind of, you know what I mean? Did you ever get to a place where you're like, you know what, this will work anywhere? Even if you don't get that strong of a laugh, but you know that you're pretty confident.
Yeah, I mean, in theory, it's supposed
Does
to
it?
work,
Okay.
right?
Does it
I mean,
really
you're-
get to
you're
that point?
Supposed to, but I mean, there's, I don't know. I mean, it's still.
Do you still face that sometimes? Do you go with crowds that
I still
really don't feel
I
you?
mean, you judge crowds. You know, you immediately walk in. You go, there's a dude with a mullet and
Yeah.
tattoos,
Yeah.
smoking and
Yeah.
drinking. Well, he's probably not gonna. You know, he's been divorced 4 times.
Okay.
He doesn't care that I just got married and
Yeah.
have kids. And
See,
because
that's what I was looking
everything.
at. I looked down the
He
crowd
doesn't
like,
care that I
this-
just
every
celebrated
little
my
folks ain't gonna
20th.
hit me.
Yeah.
So you just got to find something, whether it's through crowd work or
Yeah.
whatever, just to get that guy.
Okay.
You know, I mean, some audiences, you know, that's why they say find your audience. There's some audience, like I said, there's people that are in their, you know, mid 20s to 40s that have kids and are married. Well, that's, I don't want to say easy crowd for me, but
you
I can
got-
go, hey kids, it's tough potty training, and they go, yes, we get you. And then, like I said, people a little younger, college kids, they don't care.
They don't care, right?
We did a college on Wednesday, but what I do, the first 25 minutes was all crowd work. It was just drawing them in,
Yeah.
figuring out, well, what are you guys studying? What do you got to find some kind of commonality to rally around, and then once they
Nice.
go, yeah, we like this guy, then you can kind of say, like with like I said, the younger kids.
I tried to do that
You
when
do the,
I'm
I'm coming
doing
from the
college
future.
shows.
Coming from the
Yeah,
future.
yeah.
You're gonna get old. You're gonna have
You're
kids.
gonna
This is
go
what,
through
you know.
this.
When I'm doing college shows now, I
That's
usually
good.
start with the potty training thing, and you know what I'm talking about. You had to potty train your roommate just last week, right?
Right, yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Well, that's what it is. You
Try to
try to, yeah, because, and that's just try. You got to write more. I feel like
Yeah.
like you can't just go, well, here's my 30 minutes and hope for
Yeah.
it. You got to go.
What is
They're,
the-
they're college kids, so you try to think of, well, what with video games
Right.
or you know whatever. You just got to find something that you can all relate to.
Right.
For me, it's time. You know, if you write enough material early on, for instance, early on in my career in comedy, Andy, you know, I'm clean. So I've had some good sets. And I'm like, I can work anywhere. So Andy calls me up and he says, hey man, can you come out and do about 10 minutes or so, right? And that's all I had was like 10, I didn't have nothing else. So I go, sure, I can do 10 minutes or whatever. And so we go to this place and I get up there and it is awful. I have never, in fact, if somebody says, have you ever bombed? Yeah, I'll tell you about
Yeah.
it. This is the place.
Yeah.
In fact, the biggest laugh I got was Andy's in the back, you know, the woman is freaking out in the back. And the biggest laugh I got is I said, you know, guys, I've really enjoyed being here. I'm from Detroit. I drove out into the country. It was a beautiful drive. I'm sorry my mic didn't work. That was the biggest laugh I got. And the problem is one of my bits, I talk about how kids are no longer necessary, okay? And I go off on this tangent how kids are no longer necessary. And so I get off, and Andy's always kind, and Andy's like, oh, you did good, you did good. Well, why are they yanking me off the stage? You know, why would I bomb? I've never had that feeling before to be that bad. So I'm outside just walking around going, was it my energy level? Did I do something? You know, and I looked at the door. It was a pro-life rally.
Ayo.
And I'm talking about
They hated you the whole
the whole time. And I'm sitting there talking about how kids aren't necessary. And I'm at a pro. So now,
They're like, you're done.
Thanks for bringing me to the pro-life rally. I think we should legalize abortion at age 14.
That's horrible.
so now, you know, obviously I could go to a pro-life rally,
Yeah.
take that bit out,
Yeah, exactly.
and do other stuff.
Okay.
So it was
So
when
no
I had
good.
enough time
Okay.
that I could look at my audience before I started and throw stuff out. Like, you know, I did a
Yeah.
little bit of that last night with some children. So I won't do that one little line.
Yeah,
I just
I got you.
because they were in the crowd.
Right.
If they wouldn't have been in the crowd, I had a line that I could have used and said, you know, while you're having such a good time, there's no kids here.
Right,
But there were, so you skip
Got
over
it.
it.
Right, I got you.
So I needed time.
You gotta know, you gotta know where you're going.
I don't want to interject, but it was pretty bad. I I've seen guys eat it. This is a rough one.
That was a
rough one, man.
I don't want to talk ill of the dead, but he did die right there on stage.
That's horrible. That is horrible. So you guys, new school, old school writing. Do you go on computer, type it up? Do you write it on paper? Or is it both? Like you get an idea, you're like, I write this down because I'm gonna forget it, and then you type it in.
For me, it's just faster. My writing style is I
Yeah.
try to do a lot of bubble phrases or things that are association stuff that I can branch off. So I'm just pen and
Pretty much
paper
pen and
guy.
paper?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm computer.
Okay. Yeah, okay, cool. I'm the same way too. 'Cause I jump on Google Docs and I create like folders and ideas and different,
Yeah.
themes or whatever, and then I write on that. I go straight on my phone.
I was telling,
Send it up there.
I was
He's
telling,
like, it's too much.
I was telling Tim this. I have these just like random scrappy. It looks like a serial killer. It's just all these like words that are crossed out and bolded, and it's just it's like I go to like a mic or something, and it'll be like seriously, there's like 5 napkins on the stage, and I just kind of go, all right, it's trying to piece it all together, but yeah.
I'm still real old school. I got a little chisel and a rock.
Yeah, there you go. Nice. Little etch-a-sketch.
There you go.
I wish I had that much technology.
Yeah.
That just sketch stuff. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, for me, when I'm writing,
Yeah.
I will put spaces. This is for me. When I'm writing, being that you mentioned that I'm a minister, transitions are important to me.
Okay.
Now, there's funny comedians that just, they
go
go from
off
one point to another, and there's no, you
Yeah.
just laugh at whatever the bit is, but
Yeah.
there's no transition.
Okay.
All right, it's disjointed. I like the whole bit to flow.
Okay.
And so if I'm on a computer and I come up with some idea that would flow better off of this joke before I go to another, I can just put some spaces in, cut and paste. It makes it
Makes it
easier
yeah.
for me,
Yeah.
but that's how my brain thinks.
Right.
So transition, I'm always thinking of from joke to joke. How do I get from this joke
Right.
to that joke? And people went along for the ride. Go, where'd that come from?
Okay. Right. Exactly. Yeah. I do write on paper when I get that idea. When I have to write down that because I know I'm gonna forget
Yeah.
it. But then lately it's just been pulling up my recorder on my phone and just blah,
Absolutely.
blah, blah, and then I'm done.
Yeah.
And I'm able to send that to the cloud, and then I have it so that way I don't have to worry about finding that piece of paper. But I started off writing pen and paper, but then everything else made it easier for me to just go ahead and type it in there. Just because of the fact that I can edit quicker. 'Cause, my writing is horrible. I mean, it's bad. I just can't even. I'm not comfortable with just writing my bits like that. But at the same time, with editing, I can just jump in, copy, paste, and boom. It's just easier for me. So everybody has their method.
Yeah.
I've tried
It's pretty much as easy for me.
to use like Surrey to write my stuff down.
Yeah.
But 9 times out of 10, Surrey's drunk on my phone, and I go back and I look at it and I go,
I was like, nah.
I don't know.
Did I really say?
I don't know what that was supposed to be,
What was
but
that?
I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure I didn't say something about the charged Shalubus.
Right.
I
Yeah.
don't know what that is. So I'm not sure what. So, yeah, Surrey and I do not speak the same.
Nah.
Yeah, it's a little tough when she's editing it for you.
She slows me down. It's like I don't speak Yiddish Portuguese. Like what?
She's like another comic. She's like, maybe try this. Like, no, I had it written the way I wanted it.
That's right.
Exactly.
Kind of harsh. That hurts both my feelings. Yeah, so what's Andy? You've done a dry bar set. First of all, how was that experience, and what has that done for you?
Well, yeah, it's really nice. The people there at Vid Angel and everything, they're very nice people. I mean, they definitely take care of you, and the crowds are really hot and they're ready to go. And you usually tape with another comic or two. I got to tape with Taylor Mason, who's an absolute beast. So it was really fun to just kind of get to know him a little bit more. And I mean, it's we were talking about this over the weekend, but I guess they have more likes on their Facebook page than Comedy Central does.
Wow.
So there is a market
awesome.
for just
There is.
clean comedy, which
Yeah.
is
Good.
nice.
That's good.
But yeah, a lot of nice messages, a couple show offers and stuff. So I mean, it's it's nice. For the most part, it's been pretty positive response. So
Yeah.
that's what you kind of hope for. So
Awesome. That's good.
So what's next then? What's on Andy Beningo's? future aspirations list?
Nothing. My goal is to just basically keep being a
going.
comic.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, now that I've played Gutties, I've pretty much reached the pinnacle. It's all goes from here.
No, my goal was always just to be like a working comedian.
Yeah.
So I've
Yeah.
been very fortunate that I'm able to do that every week. And then some of the, like the dry bar thing or radio things, that's all just kind of a bonus, I mean,
Yeah.
there are other things that I'd like to do, but I mean, as you go, some of those opportunities, they're smaller and smaller. It's, kind of tough to get, like a Tonight Show or something like that. It's stuff to work towards. It's stuff that keeps you motivated and thinking and writing and tweaking. So, just overall, just trying to get better. I mean, like anybody else.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like I did a lot of that material on the dry bar thing. So now it's time to just try to write
New stuff.
stuff that's different. And
Well, that's kind of how it is now. It's almost like it's a whole new thing now where you get an hour, right? And once you take that hour, scrap it. Next hour, scrap it. It's like they're just churning specials after specials, especially on Netflix. So, I mean, is that dangerous? Is it because they got writers? It's like there's a lot of questions because to come up with a whole hour in less than a year, that seems.
I see it both ways. I mean, if you're spending $100 to go see Kevin Hart or
Right.
Louis C.K. or something, and you go back to see him the next year for $100, $200 to see two shows. I want to see something different.
Right.
In the position where I'm at, I don't think anybody knows who I am.
Okay.
Let's take that. Nobody cares who I am. So I can still use. There's no sense.
That's good.
I
Good
mean,
point,
there's
good point.
a couple different ways because
Yeah.
I've heard like Seinfeld still will do stuff that. Oh,
Well,
you've heard
Leno
me
does
do
it
this
too, yeah.
before. Or Leno.
Yeah.
So it's like those jokes still work. You
Right.
spend all these hours going on stage, tweaking
Yeah.
it, writing it. How do I change this? So why am I just gonna go? Oh, I'll throw it away because maybe a small group of people
Yeah.
saw it. And then same thing. Like I've seen Seinfeld before or Leno, and I go, I hope he does that bit again. So
Yeah.
you still want to have
point,
some
yeah.
of that.
Yeah.
I don't think you should necessarily. I mean, guys like I said, Bill Burr and some of those guys
Yeah.
where they're getting thousands and thousands of people coming.
Yeah.
Sure, but I mean, I think it's good. Like I said, it's good to have the stuff that works, and then hey, this is stuff I'm kind of passionate about now. I can tweak this stuff, and then my rule of thumb is once I'm bored doing it, then.
Right.
See you later. I'm
Okay.
tired of that joke.
Yeah.
And then every now and then you'll bring it back, and it's
Or
fun
something.
again. And
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so like someone
so
in
it's
the
like-
crowd kind of pulls it, and you're like, "Oh, a joke would work there."
So
and
it's
you're
the
like,
joke
I often-
Rolodex, man. You
Yeah,
got all
I
these
gotcha.
bits in your brain.
I often
the other
say
night.
it. I often say it like this. I'm old enough that I saw all the cool bands.
Right.
When they were young.
Right, right.
But like I'm a big Neil Peart Rush fan. Greatest drummer on the face of the
Yeah.
earth ever.
Right.
You go see him in concert and you're just like, wow.
Blown away, yeah.
Yeah.
Every show that I go to, when I go see Rush in concert, I'm not like, I've seen him do this working man thing before. I don't want to see that again.
Yeah.
And that Tom Sawyer thing. What's up with that? They do that every show.
Yeah.
God, get rid of it. Get something new.
Right.
So there are certain things that you want to see, whether it's because I just love the song, or I just want to see how fast Neil's hands are whipping those sticks around and
Yeah.
doing the crazy things he's doing because he's just so awesome. So when it comes to comedy, I say, don't be afraid to keep your solid material.
Absolutely.
But make sure your solid material is so crazy good that people are coming back because they want to
For
see
that.
it. The same way I want to see
point.
Neil
Yeah.
go crazy.
Absolutely.
I want to. So when I go in and you see a Jeff Foxworthy, you're like, give me some. You might be a redneck,
Yeah.
not the whole show, but
Right.
give me a
Right.
little bit of that.
Yeah,
Come
yeah.
on,
I got you.
and give me some of those old stuff because I think
Yeah.
they're hilarious. Now, hopefully, you give me one or two new things because then I can take them and say I'm at work. I don't have a job, so.
Right.
But the
a good
point
point.
is, as a society, we think, as comedians, we think, well, we have to have everything new. And I don't think we have to have everything new. Put in some new stuff, yes. Keep writing because you want to keep your brain creative. You don't want to get bored doing your stuff.
Yeah.
Because if you get bored with it, then the audience
They're
is going
gonna
to be bored no matter
No
what.
question.
You're like, oh, okay.
Yep, here it
I don't
is
know,
again.
remember when?
yeah,
And the audience is like, get him off the stage.
Right.
You know, so
The club that I started at, the Ann Arbor Comedy Showcase, that guy gave me a good example. He just goes, 10 new minutes every time you come in. I just want to see 10 new minutes. I think you should be able to come up with 10 minutes
Right.
in a year.
Right.
And I'm not saying you have to do start to finish, here's a brand new 45,
Right.
but like if you're just doing like 10 in the middle, that's different, or
Yeah.
whatever, or topical or whatever.
That's cool.
10 to 20 minutes should be something different,
new.
you know, and then you can still play, as Chili used to say, you can play the greatest hits, but then here's
Yep.
something a little new, and so
yeah.
that's what I think.
That's cool.
anyways. But,
That's cool.
yeah, so what's next for you, Tim?
Well, for me, I have a passion for churches. And one of the things that I'm seeing in the church world is that there are some phenomenal comics out there. But you're going to pay between 5 and 10 grand to bring these guys in. So you got to be
Yeah.
a huge church.
That's a good point.
What about the church that's 75 people? And so how do these guys, they can't get, and so what happens is a lot of times they'll get a comic that's starting out who says he's clean and he's just not good, you know, and it just hurts the, you know, it just,
Yeah.
you know, they're churning and going, we're not going to do these comedy shows anymore. So what I'm trying to do is I've got a company that is working with churches. So I'm doing two things. One is I'm working with these small churches and trying to bring in quality acts for
Yeah.
them that is affordable. And then secondly, and it's easier for me because I'm not full-time in this.
Okay.
You know, if you're a full-time comic, you gotta make
go
the
in for the
money,
work,
and, you
yeah,
know.
yeah.
For me, it's more of a ministry. And then the second thing that I'm doing is not only working with these small churches, but I'm working with Compassion International. And so I'm trying to use my comedy
Nice.
more as a ministry that get kids signed up and sponsored by people. And so to me, it's I love doing this.
Yeah.
It's a blast, but I also want to do more and more ministry things.
Yeah, nice, nice. Even though you're like, kids are useless. It's all good.
Kids are useless. Hey, sign up these kids right
Sign 'em
today.
up.
Sign them
I don't
up.
know if you need 'em.
Let's just say a youth pastor job is not in my future.
That's good.
Not in my future.
We're kind of like in that same boat too, honestly. I mean, we can seat about 90 people in this room, but we still want to bring quality, you know, comedy to the place, especially to Greenwood. So we're kind of like similar because we want to bring in, we want to definitely take care of the acts that come in, but at the same time we want to be able to bring comedy that's worth coming to see.
Yeah.
So we want quality, you know, comedy to come through. So I appreciate and commend that. The fact that you want to at least, you know, bring quality even to the smaller
Right.
churches, so that's cool too. That's really cool.
And you know, I'm glad that there's comics out there that are like, hey, I'm a $2,000 comic. I'm a $5,000 comic.
Right, right.
I'm a
Good for them.
$20,000.
Yeah, they're doing it. They're working.
Good, you
Yeah.
know. That's why I did corporate comedy for the last 20 years,
Yeah.
because I would make more money doing corporate events. So that I could go do a church that said, hey, we've got 100 people.
Yeah.
We'll give you a roast beef sandwich,
Right.
and
Right.
we'll give you a gas card. There's nothing on the gas card, but you know, at least you can see that somebody at least one time
We'll give you
put
a
this.
love offering.
They put an empty gas card in the offering last week, so we're going to give it to you. But you know, it's one of those things where okay, you make your choices of what are the shows I want to do, and so being able to help facilitate a service to churches that are looking for clean comics, or really small comedy clubs.
Hint, hint.
No, I think it's a great thing, because the one thing that I try to do on a regular basis is I'm trying to always promote other comics. You know, when I met Andy at the Clean Comedy Challenge, I started talking about Andy to other people when I met him, because I loved what he did at that event, at that comedy challenge, and I'm like, this kid's got chops that I really love, and so I've talked about him. And so when we talked about opening Gutties,
Yeah.
who was one of the first people I talked about?
Straight
I'm
up,
going to see if
straight,
we can
boom,
get him to
Andy
roll
Beningo.
through.
For real.
because
I was like, let's do it. If we can have it, that'd be awesome.
And I've watched from a distance. I've watched him when he's posting stuff about being, hey, I'm on this cruise, and he does his Beningo on the road thing.
Oh, yeah.
And, I'm like, okay, this is a guy that people need to be watching. They need to be paying attention to.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I see comics that they're putting in the work and they're getting really good, I want to do what I can to help them get noticed.
Exactly.
Appreciate it, yeah.
That's again, it goes back to something I say all the time. In comedy, if you get good and you get noticed, you can get paid.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. They'll come.
So
It'll come.
anyway,
Awesome.
real quick, what's the best piece of advice somebody gave you about comedy?
It was, it's probably the most cliche advice, but it was when I was in college, I think I was 20, I was doing this big theater. To that point, I'd only been doing maybe 2 shows a year because I was 18, and that was the only place I knew about comedy. Was on campus they do an open mic in the first semester, and then the second semester they do another open mic. So the cliche advice was just write as much as you can and get on stage as much as you can.
That's it.
And that just kind of, like I said, it's cliche now, but it kind of blew my brain because it was I can't just do it 6 times a year. I gotta really hustle and get up. And it's the only way, 1, you're gonna get better. 2, the only way you're gonna grow your act. And 3, get comfortable on stage and network and meet people. And so that's my advice, is just the more you get up, the better you're gonna get and figure things out faster. So that's probably the best advice I ever got. Yeah.
What about you, Tim?
To me, it's performing for the audience. I've listened to comics just jump on other comics. I don't like him because he does this in his act, and I go, I got an example of a vaudeville act one comic does, and it's an old bit where he is standing and he brings an audience member up and they become his arms. It's an old act. Youth pastors have been doing it for years. But he's so good with it that he kills. Every time he does it, he kills. People ask for it. And then other comics go, that's so old, that's so cliche.
Played out, yeah.
And I just, and so I was talking to a comic, and he's like, it's about the audience. If they left happy,
That's it.
and they thought it was fun,
Okay.
then why are you attacking what that guy did?
Right.
Because it's about the audience, it's not about, again, are we playing the magicians or are we playing to the audience?
Right.
And that
Okay.
helped me just go, did they have fun? Then it was a
Then
good
it's
show.
good. See, that's what I'm always telling Dennis. We're always making sure that everybody understands that if you're laughing in the room, if the audience is laughing, then you're doing your job.
Yeah.
If you're getting the laughs, you're doing your job. And it's so you're gonna you have to work hard to get to it. But if you're in there and you're putting in work and you're getting the laughs, then you're doing your job. That's just my opinion, but I think.
And that's where I have a viewpoint that I teach fairly heavily at Comedy College, where I say to the comics, your job is not to get laughs. So many times when you talk with comics, so did you get good laughs last night?
Right.
Your job isn't to get laughs. Your job is to give laughter. You're supposed to be giving the audience as many opportunities to laugh as possible. If you're going to try and get, you're doing it wrong. Your job is to get out there and just give away the power of laughter.
Sure.
Give it away. And so if you make the audience your viewpoint of, I'm here to make sure I'm giving everybody in the room an opportunity just to enjoy and laugh and have a great time.
Yeah.
If your focus is on them, and you go out and you're having fun and they're having fun and you've done your job of giving away laughter, then have fun. And that's ultimately, that's where you want people's focus to be, because if it's all about what am I getting from this audience, quite honestly, I don't want to work hard to try and bring an audience in so you can take from them.
Right.
I'm bringing an audience in so you have an audience to give laughter to.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
Absolutely. I like that.
That's cool.
so, well, any parting words of wisdom you'd like to share with? Well, pretty much my mom and dad are the only ones that watch this. No, I'm just kidding. any parting words of wisdom?
Check out Gutty's Comedy Club. It's a fantastic club. I enjoyed it last night. I'm really looking forward to the show tonight. So
It's a nice place to perform.
keep coming in and supporting these guys. That's my words of advice. So
Thank you.
All right, well then, I guess that brings us to another end of an episode of the Pops and the Rican show. And in case you missed it, I'm Pops.
Yeah, and I'm the Rican.
And this has been the Pops and the Rican show.
Toca la
Deuces!
suena el bongo,
Thanks, guys.
hazme un tumbao que el ritmo lo pongo yo.
Pops and the Rican. Pops and the Rican.
Look at this dude. Look at the top of his head.